Okay, let's see what happens. Live. Okay, it's live. Okay. Whoa. Whoa, that's what a time waster. Okay, we're live. Okay. So hopefully people will get the notification and show up momentarily here. So there we go. Boar is here, and Ben's here. Okay, so there we go. I figured it out. That was kind of frustrating. Very, very frustrating. At least we can see the comments. Everything is okay, and hopefully no more interruption. And the only reason for this is that YouTube keeps changing the stream key at every broadcast. I don't know why it does that. And I didn't really set up my app because I have a special app I use for doing the broadcast. It's a multicast, and I did not set this up to be changing the stream key at every broadcast. So that's really time consuming. So I didn't do it like that. So now it's very troublesome now because there's all these unexpected things that are happening. So okay, so maybe people will show up on YouTube here shortly. And we figured it out. That wasted a few minutes there. So sorry about that. One more change. YouTube made some change again, and now I got to go figure out how to solve this for next time. So next week I'll have to come up with an answer here as to why they're doing this. So that's a problem with all these platforms. You got to go, adapt to just whatever they change. And sometimes I don't know that they changed it until I'm ready to broadcast. So anyway, welcome, folks. So we got some people coming in now to YouTube. And if you're here and if you left one of the comments in the videos and you wanted to hear me talk about some of the responses to the videos, please leave a comment so then I recognize you, so that I remember what the comment is. Hello, Richard Mares, or is it Mares? So if you left a comment and you expect an answer that I promise some of you, and if you're here, then I know that I can discuss some of that. So anyway, there's a lot of comments on the last YouTube video I did, which is about comparing a Librem 5 and a PinePhone, and there's a lot of different comments, and it seems like there's a bit of misunderstanding about what's in a phone. To be honest with you, it's like we're not understanding what a phone is, and well, you all know what you think a phone is, but you and I don't have the same interpretation about what's in here, because you only see what you see, and you don't actually know about all the little chips in here and all the little secrets that are in here. And I will tell you about why somebody decided to make a new device like the Librem 5. Why did someone from Purism and someone from PinePhone, but mostly from Purism, said, we need to design a completely different phone. We need to design a completely different phone, and you have to understand the processes that they went through to come up with that decision, and that actually impacts on what I talk about, because they're the only company that agrees with what my perception is about what the issues are with the phone, and a lot of you really don't get it. And here's why I know you don't get it, a lot of you. And this is why I want to cure this problem tonight. A lot of you think all you have to do is get rid of Android on your Android. There's no question about iOS. This is mostly a typical question among people on Android. Many people think that all you have to do is take an Android phone and remove Android on it and put some other Android distribution or even Linux, and somehow all the problems are solved. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let me repeat again. So many people think all you have to do on an Android device is take your Android like this. This is an Android. Okay, so this is an Android phone. In fact, this is the one that I'm gonna be. This is the one that I'm gonna be working on. This is a OnePlus One, and looks like it's defective already because the battery's not charging, so it's already defective. But anyway, this is the OnePlus One. If I just can get it to run at least, even for a day, then I can go test it. This is a OnePlus One. This is an iPhone. Okay, so this OnePlus One is an Android device. This is Android. I just got this. I have Androids here. This is another Android here. This is a Nexus. This is a Nexus. So that's a Nexus Android. I have several Androids. I have a Google Pixel. I have another one called Alcatel. And these are more of the newer phones. I have some old ones that we don't really care about. Bruno Ray, you got competition tonight. I turn off Knox, our enemy, the state for you. Thank you, Bruno Ray. I always have competition tonight. That doesn't matter. Okay, I don't care about competition. I just do what I do, and I have to do it on my schedule and not somebody else's schedule. Anyway, this is a OnePlus One that I bought for $59, and hoping it would work. And at $59, there's some defects in here, so we'll see. Because one of the defects is I think it needs a new battery. Okay, so anyway, so in theory, some of you are saying, okay, there's an Android device. This is an Android device. And given that it seems like a nice little phone if it works, because it's not working right now, but if it works, it's a nice little phone, and all you have to do is say, well, why don't we just get rid of Android and put another OS on here? How about loading something called Lineage OS? Because Lineage OS is a Android custom ROM, so it's a custom version of Android that is not from Google. So why not use that? And since it's not Google and it doesn't have as some of you refer to it as Google bloatware, since it doesn't have Google bloatware on it, then presumably that's all you need, and somehow this phone is now safer. This is the exact problem that I have, which indicates that people don't really understand what's in these phones and why we have a concern and why these phones are dangerous in spite of all that, even if you do not have the official Android version on this, okay? And that's what we want to discuss tonight. Did it manage to exchange the firmware on the SoC? Of course, it can't change. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. I received a router this week. I appreciate your hard work, good sir. Thank you, Bruno Ray. Thank you. Now, I don't, the funny thing, Bruno Ray, is I don't know who you are. I don't know who you, which one I ship a router to, since I ship so many. And isn't that nice, Bruno Ray? Because I don't actually know your identity. So even if you didn't mention it, I wouldn't even know. I have, so I would say, okay, of all the routers that I shipped last week, which one are you? I actually wouldn't know. So kind of an interesting fact. So it's nice to know that I'm not here tracking you. So I actually will not know unless you tell me, because some of you obviously don't use real names on the app. And one of the ways I would know if you say, okay, I'm in such and such a city, and I'll say, okay, well, I shipped to that city, then that's the only way I would know. So other than that, I'm going to, by next week, I will have forgotten completely. I melted the SoC containing your Wi-Fi until it broke and wouldn't connect. This is an interesting comment from Mad Cow. Let's read this. So Mad Cow says, I melted the SoC containing my Wi-Fi until it broke and wouldn't connect, but even though it's completely grayed out, it's carrying out on sending probes and doing Wi-Fi triangulation. Okay, now just listen to that comment from Mad Cow. Now, Mad Cow, I don't know how we actually verify your comment there. Hold on, I think the comments are too low on the bottom here. Okay. Okay. Too bad PayPal and a MasterCard do. Yes, actually, if you pay me by PayPal, I don't actually, get the details of that since PayPal gets the details. I only know I got paid by an email address. So obviously, if I'm shipping something, I get a shipping address. But I don't. If you're not buying something that requires shipping, I do not take that data from PayPal. For example, if you buy a VPN, it doesn't indicate your shipping address, so I don't actually know anything other than your email address. And only your email address is known to me if you buy a VPN. Your name is real. Yes, the bore for a month is real. Are you going to be a bore next month? Are you going to be a bore next month? So back to Mad Cow. Hello, Red Amore. Back to Mad Cow. So Mad Cow said, was that Mad Cow? Mad Cow said that hello, Red Amore. Still on Zucking Facebook. So anyway, how the Zuck do you... Yeah, so Mad Cow went into his... Was it a phone, Mad Cow? What kind of device was it? He went to the device and somehow he found out what the chip is for Wi-Fi, and he actually... how did you destroy the Wi-Fi SoC, Mad Cow? How did you destroy it? Did you poke it, or what exactly did you do? Okay, an iPhone. Mad Cow, what chip? Keep up with the comments. No, Red More. I don't keep up with the comments on Periscope. Mad Cow, which chip did you hit on an iPhone? That's a good topic. Which chip? Tell me what the chip is. Did you figure out what's the brand of the chip? This is an important question. What brand was on the chip? This is an important question that relates to everything we're talking about tonight. And Mad Cow happens to be here, experimenting with this. What actual brand was on the chip? Okay, what actual brand was on? Do you remember what the brand is? Because you were looking for it. Did you find the specific chip that I'm talking about? Because it's a very specific brand. If it's not that brand, you may not have hit the chip. Come on, Mad Cow, this is a simple question. How did you know it was the Wi-Fi SoC for one, and what was the manufacturer's name on it? And then we'll go into a deep discussion about this so you understand this. No, Foxconn is the assembly company. That has nothing to do with a chip maker. Okay, Mad Cow, that you hit the wrong thing. Okay, so let me just explain this to you. And this is hello, Jay. Okay, let me just explain this to you because it's not clear to many of you. Your phone has a device in here that spies on your location within 6 zucking feet. This device that's on here does not use the GPS. In fact, it says if the GPS is if this little chip is not running to do this thing I'm talking about, then it's going to go to GPS. Then it's going to go to cell tower. Otherwise, it does it in sequence. The first sequence is I'm going to do something called Wi-Fi triangulation. So Wi-Fi triangulation is first. So question number 1, can I do Wi-Fi triangulation? Is the chip for Wi-Fi triangulation there? If it is, it's going to use that. It's going to use that, and it's going to track you within 6 zucking feet. It does not need GPS. You could turn off your GPS. You could snip off the GPS circuitry. It's not going to matter. Okay? You do not have to be on cell. Take off the SIM card. It's not going to matter. You're going to be spied on by this chip. This chip is made by Broadcom. I'm talking iPhone here. Okay? This chip is made by Broadcom. Broadcom, not Foxcom. Broadcom. So in order for you to find the Wi-Fi chip, you have to find the Wi-Fi chip by Broadcom. Now, the Wi-Fi chip by Broadcom, it's a system on a chip, so it has basically a computer on the chip, has firmware. Firmware. Now, what is firmware? This is such an important question, guys. Okay, this is such an important question, and I'm getting a lot of answers that a lot of questions in my videos that imply that people don't actually understand this. There's firmware on that Broadcom chip. Firmware means there's software. Somebody wrote a program and then embedded it in the chip, so it's part of the chip. So when you install the chip, the software for running the chip is also on there. It's called an SoC, system on a chip. So it's not a single chip, it's a system on a chip. Typically an SoC, or system on a chip, means it's an entire computer. Okay, that means it has a little CPU in there, some low-grade CPU. It has memory. It has input-output to pass data in and out, and it's built into the one chip. Okay, and it has a place to put the program in, typically in some sort of flash storage or embedded as flash storage on the device. Okay, and now this is sold as a system on a chip. So it could be a very, very tiny little square on the PCB on your phone, on the motherboard. It's going to be a tiny little square made by Broadcom, and it has everything to do with Wi-Fi. So what's actually on there? Well, obviously there's a radio. So one of the things that they're going to put in to a Wi-Fi on the chip is an antenna. So Mad Cow, there's going to be two antennas on your device. There's going to be two antennas. There's going to be antenna for the cell phone and an antenna for the Wi-Fi. So just understand that. In fact, they did a teardown of a Librem 5, and there were two antennas there. Okay, so two antennas. So one is for the Wi-Fi and one is for the cell. Okay, the little metal chip has very cryptic letters and numbers on it. So yes, that's a problem. Is you don't, because it's a system on a chip. The Broadcom portion of it may just be embedded in there as some sort of microscopic little thing, and they may sell it as a whole system on a chip. It may not exactly say Broadcom on it. So this is some of the issues here. On your phone, there are many little devices that have programs called firmware, little chips, where all the spying is going on. All the spying, that's what I'm talking about, Powerhouse. It's exactly what I'm saying to you. So let's say you have an iPhone. Okay, because I know this on an iPhone, I got the information. I don't have the information exactly in what's on an Android device, so we're going to have to make some assumptions in here about what it is. But on an iPhone, there's a chip on here. So, the motherboard on an iPhone is very small. I think it's only like, this big, and it's actually narrow like that. The motherboard is a narrow piece like that with a few chips on there. And it has, a system on a chip. So it embeds the cell baseband on there. It embeds the Wi-Fi. It embeds the Bluetooth, and embeds near field, embeds Ethernet if it has that, USB controller, display controller, GPU, CPU. There's so many little parts on a motherboard, and it's sold to you as a system on a chip, SoC. Because it's so tiny, you don't really know, because that's how they mass produce this, to make it so tiny. So a system on a chip means that they've really shrunk the circuitry and combined it all, so they just combine it into small little chip. Okay, so now given this, the problem now, Hold on, Sal. That's not the question I can answer right now. The problem now is it's embedded in there, and you can't really you know, isolate little pieces in there. Now, what they did on a Librem 5 phone, okay, for those of you who are new to this and haven't watched my video, there's a new Librem 5 phone was just released, and it's not really in the hands of too many people, if any, other than the people in the company. So it's a very, very limited kind of release so far. But this little device is custom made. It's actually pretty thick, and it's custom made because what they did is they said, let's remove some of the chips that are on the motherboard, the system on a chip, and take them away and isolate them from the main motherboard. Okay? Isolate them from the main motherboard. And why is this important? And I want to really emphasize this because people just don't get it when I talk about Android and think all you have to do is change to Android and everything change from Android to Lineage OS or Graphene OS or Sailfish or something, and suddenly everything is going to be cool. It's not, because you haven't touched the firmware. You have not touched the firmware, and all the spying is actually occurring on the firmware. So on an Apple, the Wi-Fi triangulation feature that tracks you within 6 ducking feet is on the Wi-Fi chip. For those of you who haven't watched my videos on location tracking, many videos in that I put up on there, everything to do with location tracking, several videos talk about this. But Wi-Fi triangulation, in simplified terms, looks for every Wi-Fi router in the world where you are, and it says, I can see some Wi-Fi routers near you, and because it knows the location of every zucking router in the entire world, it can say, oh, you're near, you know, Pizza Place 1. You're near the Wi-Fi of Pizza Place 1, so therefore you must be on this location. If it finds 2 of the Wi-Fi routers around you, it will then be able to triangulate your position to within 6 feet. There's a formula for how they do this based on signal strength. This was originally developed by Google, and then Apple bought the technology from another firm and integrated to Find My Phone. Okay, so that's how it works. That chip looks for Wi-Fi routers, so it doesn't look at GPS. They used the GPS originally to find out where the router was. Beyond that, they don't need to use the GPS anymore. So the GPS was only useful to find where the Wi-Fi routers were. And nowadays, you don't need the GPS anymore because the routers are more accurate. One of the things that's accurate about routers, it actually tells you what floor you're in of a building, because it knows, oh, this router is at this altitude, so you're on the 5th floor. This router here, which is in the same exact location, but is a floor, 2 floors below. So whereas GPS requires you to be open, you can't be indoors and use GPS because it's got to reach the satellites. Okay, so when you're indoors, the GPS doesn't work anyway. So this is one of the reasons they developed this kind of Wi-Fi tracking, Wi-Fi triangulation. And this has been embedded into the Broadcom chip. The Wi-Fi chip of Broadcom was now part of the system on a chip. It's embedded into the iOS motherboard. So you can't really, I don't know how the Zuck you're going to recognize which one it is and take it off, because, you know, on the whole motherboard. So chances are that Mad Cow hit the wrong chip. Okay? Chances are that Mad Cow hit the wrong chip when he tried to disable the Wi-Fi. So, but this is an overall problem that I'm trying to tell you. The spying software and hardware are all in firmware that's embedded in the hardware on all of the Androids and iOS devices, and you don't know what they are. We don't know what they are. What happened, guys, is the people who were making the Librem 5 confirms that when they actually dug in and started researching every chip and say, well, what's the firmware in that? Once they start asking the question, where's the firmware for that? Then they find out, what the zuck, there's a firmware everywhere. Every system on a chip has firmware. So every module has firmware. So Bluetooth has firmware, the Wi-Fi has firmware, the camera has firmware, the sensors have firmware. All of them have firmware. Again, firmware means the software was written into the chip. Okay? The software is written into the chip. Sal, the answer is you use a virtual machine. You can run Windows inside Linux on a virtual machine. Next step is try to remove the chip with a CNC engraver, if you know which chip it is. Okay, so given the issue here, now what I'm trying to tell you is you do not know what the firmware is doing. I'm going to give you again specific examples so that you understand the risk here. If you do not specifically destroy or turn off the power to the Wi-Fi chip, it doesn't matter that you have Android or Lineage OS or Graphene OS or any other operating system. If you don't actually turn off the Wi-Fi, then the Wi-Fi is tracking locations. Okay, it does tracking locations two ways. One is it sends your location to Google. Second, it sends your location to a website. So it has actually two parts. Many of you don't realize that. It actually is doing two things at the same time. This is part of the code that they do. Okay? There's actually no way to stop the location tracking, the one that is sent to Google. But that may be built into the Android. Maybe built into the Android. I don't know. Meaning the operating system rather than the chip. But the location tracking is still in there. Then the other one is on the location setting where a website recognizes your location. That's a secondary feature of the chip. Secondary feature. So now the question is, so which one do you turn off? Well, you can't turn off the Google portion. Maybe it can be turned off if you're not using Android. I don't know that. This is the problem with all these people, and I've read so many, some of these specs of every OS, from Lineage OS to Graphene OS to, even the original Cyanamod Gen and all that. And it's like, and I don't actually see any reference to saying, yes, we disabled the Wi-Fi triangulation. None. And I don't have time to dig into the Android code and go find that. But I don't see any reference to somebody saying, "Oh yeah, we found out we found where the Wi-Fi triangulation is and we took it out." If it's not in the Android code, guess where it is? If it's not in the Android code, that means it's in the hardware, which means you're zucked. You can't do anything about it. We'll get into that power, but I want to make sure we understand it first because I want the arguments to be sound. When somebody says, what is the solution to this? If the arguments aren't sound, then we're only going back and forth and we're not solving the problem. Okay. The other part of this is the baseband or the cell baseband modem, the portion that does the cell phone. That is a very, very dangerous little device because that definitely has firmware. Not only that firmware is updatable. They can update the firmware remotely. And they can do that when you drive by a 3-letter agency or somebody does Stingray to you, or somebody does a carrier update. So they can actually change that code. They can also do something called SIM jacking, which means they can intercept and put code into the SIM card. So the combination of the SIM card, the baseband modem and all that actually has some coding in there. And this is the really scary part about this, people. This is the real scary part about this. All of the firmware for the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the cell baseband, the motion sensor, the camera, and all of those backdoors and firmware use the same memory area as the normal phone, meaning it can read your memory area on the phone, the main memory area. it has access to that same address space. Okay? So, if you don't understand what this means, I'm going to make it clear for you. On a standard iOS, on a standard Android, if somebody from the three-letter agency or somebody from the carrier says, I want to spy on what you're doing on your phone, I want to read what's in memory, including the encryption on your device, all I have to do is dial into the baseband, and the baseband can and you can write a program that can read into the memory of the device and see what the zuck is going on in there. For example, the encryption key for your iPhone is probably kept in memory in there, and if they know where it's kept, they could theoretically reach it. So this is the kind of stuff that you have no awareness of, that this is going on a phone, because all of these are all integrated into one, with all of the firmware interacting with each other as if they're sharing the same memory space, the same input-output processor. They're like, they're backdoors. There are many, many backdoors, many of them. Just to give you an example again, so many of you don't actually understand this, and there's been many cybersecurity studies that have done this. Somebody can track your location from the motion sensor alone. So if they have a starting point like your home address, and you travel all day with your phone in your pocket, they can actually, this has been a proven thing now in cybersecurity, they can actually go figure out where your actual location is within a few feet based on the gyroscope and the motion sensor on the phone. Incredible. And you don't pay attention to this, and this is the kind of stuff that's in the phone itself. And when somebody says, well, all I have to do is, change the Android. Well, what did you do with all those little chips that I'm talking about? What about the baseband mode? What about the SIM jacking? What about the fact that they can read the memory on the device? What about all that? Who's doing anything with that? How do you make that secure? The answer is you can't. So I'm going to make some clear statements here of things we do know. And then we're going to talk about the solutions I talked about last night, okay? It is clear that there is absolutely no solution to being tracked by the cell baseband. Now, fortunately, the cell baseband can't track you to the same degree as a Wi-Fi triangulation technique, but it knows who you're talking to. It can listen to your text, watch your text messages, and basically spy on your phone traffic. So we have no solution to that. By the way, there is no solution to SIM jacker. At the moment, that hack called SIM jacker has no solution. That means every zucking phone in existence can be SIM jacked. I don't care how old the old phone is. It could be a zucking 2G phone, flip phone, and because it has a cell baseband, those have the same kind of vulnerabilities. Okay? It's not even have to do with the smartphone, Great Gold. Any phone has a cell baseband problem. We don't have a solution. The only solution to protect yourself against a cell baseband hack, the only solution is to turn off the power, which you can do on an old phone by taking off the battery. You can also take off the SIM card, which kind of limits what the cell baseband can do. If you remove the SIM card, the phone is less capable. Unfortunately, and probably this is the question: can you SIM jack a phone where you took off the SIM card? Maybe not. So that's one of the things that we got to think about. And then the next question is. Can you turn off the power to the baseband only? And the only device that can actually turn off the power to the baseband while keeping the phone on is a Librem 5 and a Pine phone. Those are the only two devices that allow you to use the phone in a regular way while turning off the baseband only, or the Wi-Fi only. Those are the only two devices made for this. So the reason I'm saying that is that I want to make it clear why a Librem 5 and a Pine phone are different solutions than putting in different things on Android. The reason, the difference is that these two devices, Librem 5 and PinePhone, are the only two devices which actually allow you to use the phone while turning off the baseband. So if you want to play a game and you don't need to be spied on, you can turn off the baseband and turn off the Wi-Fi. If you say, well, I'm traveling and I don't need to have Wi-Fi triangulation, so you turn off the Wi-Fi when you're on the road and leave the baseband only, so they only have a rough idea of where you are. Okay? Now, let me just make this clear. It is very clear right now that there is no way to stop the spying on the cell portion, meaning the cell baseband. So maybe it's not appropriate to think of really solving that, because even a Librem 5 can only solve that if you're not using the device, meaning if you turn off the switch. Are you able to use a phone without receiving calls? Are you able to turn off the switch? So that's a decision you got to make. Can you turn off the switch? So maybe there's no choice. Maybe a phone is so vulnerable that we really don't have anything we can do about it. But there is, again, another difference that I want to make sure that you understand. The difference is that a Librem 5, on a Librem 5, the baseband modem is actually a separate module. It does not share memory with the main board. Okay? In contrast, every Android, every iOS shares the same memory space. So they're more dangerous because if somebody hacks your cell baseband, they can read the memory on the main motherboard, whereas on a Librem 5, only on a Librem 5, it cannot. Okay? It cannot read the memory. This is why the Librem 5 is unique. And if you understand the design, you understand how they solve this, then you have to appreciate why it's so expensive, because no other company has actually figured out how to separate the memory from the baseband. And we all know about the SIMjacker hack. And the only device that actually prevents somebody from reading the memory on your main device to actually make the hack even worse is a Librem 5. So if somebody comes to me and says, oh, well, I don't need a Librem 5, it's useless, I don't see what the benefit of it is, because you don't understand the hardware issues. Once you understand the hardware issues, you understand, yeah, okay, that's a threat. Now, that threat may not be important to you, but it's the only way to handle that threat. Same with the Wi-Fi. If somebody got into the Wi-Fi chip in some way and managed to insert firmware in there that does some signaling and is able to read something in memory, then we are sucked, and we don't know it because it's all a black box. This is the problem. It's all a black box. We don't actually know what happens in all this. I'm making some assumptions. Do you know how I found out that Broadcom has the spy firmware on there? Did you know how I found that out? I actually thought it was in the OS. I actually thought the spying Wi-Fi triangulation code was in iOS. I actually thought it was on iOS. Because how do I know? All I know is it works. It's in there somewhere. So did Apple build it in or what? What happened? So this is what happened. The company that made the original software for location tracking is Skyhook. Skyhook. So the prior this is funny, guys. The prior CEO, since I know what I'm doing here, so I searched the guy. The prior CEO of Skyhook made a statement on YouTube, where he says that the software for Wi-Fi triangulation, and he was very precise about the words, the exact terms I use, the precise word for Wi-Fi triangulation, that was put into the Broadcom chip by Skyhook, and it's licensed by Apple. He said so. Found out that he's no longer the CEO now, so I don't know what happened. But he's not the CEO anymore of Skyhook. But he said that on a YouTube video. Now, who knows? Maybe they took the video down, but it's there. The CEO of Skyhook saying, yes, we put the Wi-Fi triangulation in the Broadcom chip. Okay, that's the only way I know, is because I know what to dig for, and I give you special information because I'm able to dig, and most people don't know what to dig for. So here, I dug that out, and I found out that it's in the Wi-Fi chip. Now, given that Skyhook managed to put the Wi-Fi triangulation in the Wi-Fi chip, this is what happens at the. Hello, Matthew. This is what happens at the OS level. So the OS, meaning iOS in this case, simply says, "Give me the location. Give me the location." So you don't even have to think. That you don't have to tell the device, "Give me location and give me, use Wi-Fi triangulation." You do not have to think about that. The hardware just gives the location. The hardware just tells you this is the location. It may give you the type of location, like GPS, Wi-Fi, whatever, but it doesn't actually have to be programmed into the software. All you do is ask the chip for the location, and hello, Mitchell. So you ask the chip for the location, and it gives you the location. Now, I'm asking the same question. It cannot impact on turn locations off. Matthew Vick, I'm just telling you this. It's at the hardware level. How do you turn off the power to that little chip? So now the question is, on an Android, is it on a chip as well, or is it in the iOS code? No one has ever mentioned to me that I've seen in any reference that we took out the Wi-Fi triangulation in Android. No one has ever said this. I wonder why. It could be that it works just like iOS. It could mean it's just like iOS, which means it's embedded in hardware and firmware. I cannot confirm or deny this, but how often is location updated? Obviously, constantly. It's immediate. Twisted verbally. How are you twisted verbally? Are you twisted verbally? So you understand now, and this is just the ones that I know. What about the ones we don't know? What kind of firmware is in the motion sensor? At times, yes. Windows is no. It's not. It's not in Windows. Windows doesn't have the capability for doing it like that in that sense, but you can do it on Windows in code. I think in Windows it's done in code, which is exactly. I'll tell you exactly how it's done, so you understand. So you understand how it's done on a computer. Okay, let's say you have a Intel PC. How does it do Wi-Fi triangulation on a PC? It's not on a chip. So how does it do it? Okay, so this is really, well, it could be on the chip, but this is how it's done on a PC. It goes to the Wi-Fi adapter, and then it says, give me something called Promiscuous Mode. Tell me all the different Wi-Fis around you. So it searches for all the Wi-Fis. Then it makes a list and say, give me the signal strength of each. Makes a list of that. And then there's a command you send to Google. It's called the Google Geolocation API. You send all of that to Google, and then Google will come up with a location. Okay, so that's how you do it by software without a chip. So as far as I'm aware, the chip itself on a computer, the Wi-Fi adapter in a computer, simply looks for Wi-Fi routers. It doesn't go to the point of actually determining locations. That they've shortcutted on a mobile device. Now, so that's how I'm aware. I actually know that API because I use it. I use that to get locations. So I know how it works. I have a test program that does that, and it's based on Promiscuous Mode on the modem, on the Wi-Fi modem. It gets a list of Wi-Fi routers. Then you send that to Google using the geolocation API, and then you get the response back. Okay? So that's how that works. So it's a little bit different on a phone. Now, why different on a phone? Because they've miniaturized it. And they put it into what is called a system on a chip. So it's not even one chip. One of you said, well, let's remove the chip. Well, how do you recognize it? It's called a system on a chip. Everything is on a system on a chip. One chip is actually multiple systems in there. One chip will contain Bluetooth, near field, Wi-Fi, and all that. So you're not going to know which one it is. You're not going to know. Okay, so you can see that it's getting complicated now. Okay, so hold on. So let me just read this. Don't forget your SIM card is a mini computer. I don't actually believe the SIM card is a mini computer, but I think it's a whole it's a database in there. I think the SIM card is a database. I think that the firmware has to run. I don't think that the SIM card can run itself. I don't think you can put a SIM card into and assume it's a computer by itself. And that's just my guess. I just don't think so. I don't think a SIM card is a system on a chip, because that would be too expensive. So, but I think that it is the backbone of the baseband modem on a phone. So anyway, if to summarize this, and I don't want to get too complicated here. My point is to say that on an Android and iOS, all of those little sensors in there with their firmware, and sensors and code are existing even on the GPU, on the USB controller, the display controller, it's all over the place, and they can all access memory. So if somebody put some secret code in there, they can put things. You did I ask for this? So, given this, I want you to understand that as much as I would like to use a Android phone like this and put in a non-Android phone, I don't know if I'm actually getting rid of the problem. Okay? I'm not actually sure. Only the Librem 5 really separates it so that the memory is separate. That's a very big deal. Very big deal. Well, this is what we get for wanting more and more and more. Apple worked it out. How did they work it out? Don't type that here, Danny. It's called the National Zucking Agency. Don't type any three-letter words in here, please. You're not allowed to type it on YouTube, but you can type it on Periscope, and I want to make sure you don't. Okay, that's a different project. Okay, so that's why the Librem 5 is unique. So you understand that some of you were saying, well, that's kind of expensive. It doesn't do, it's not much of a fancy phone and all that. Well, except that they're the only ones who actually said, can we solve this problem with the memory, the chip, the firmware, and they solve by separation. Simply saying, if the baseband modem is not part of the memory, then it can't intercept the memory of the main phone. Okay? So that's how they solved in the Librem 5. It's not like that on a Pine phone. Librem 5 is unique in there. So in case you're saying to yourself, well, I don't need a Librem 5, I can just do a cheap solution somewhere. Yeah, I just want to know that it's different. Now, having said this, I want a solution that's cheap that I can have access to now because I don't have a Librem 5. I ordered one and I can't get one. It's going to take months to get one. So since I don't have a Librem 5, what is the immediate solution when we have other threats such as Wi-Fi triangulation and all this? How do I solve that? Well, the solution is a Linux phone. Okay, this is an Android phone. This is a OnePlus One. I didn't know this was a Chinese company. This is a OnePlus One. Okay. This is a Linux phone. Yes, it has firmware. Has all that, all the spying stuff. We all know that's on there. But it's an intermediate solution. It's not perfect. It's not like Librem 5. the baseband is attached to the memory. It has all those flaws. The Wi-Fi triangulation's in here somewhere, so it's not perfect. One of the other things I told you about is the fact that they can spy on MAC addresses. Now, I'm going to make an assumption, and this is one of the things I'm going to try to prove. Okay, I'm going to try to prove if I run Linux on this device, because Linux doesn't have code for Wi-Fi triangulation. Even if it does Wi-Fi triangulation, it doesn't have the code to send it anywhere. Okay, unless somebody writes a program and inserts it into your phone, no one can see the Wi-Fi triangulation data if you're running Linux, because Linux doesn't have such a code. We don't know what's in Android. It's probably there to send it to Google, but it's not on Linux. Linux doesn't have that kind of code, guaranteed. Okay, Linux doesn't have any kind of Wi-Fi triangulation code because it's open source, and open source without Google's hands in there. See, Android is open source, but it's not, because the Android that's loaded on your phone is not the open source version. Hello, Mama Goo. The Android that's put in here is not the open source version. It's open source plus whatever Google puts in. And Google requires all the hardware. All the hardware is preset by Google. So you can't have an Android phone that doesn't follow a standard hardware configuration so that the drivers work. So on all these devices, they've already prearranged what the hardware is, and it's all pre-approved, and you can't just vary it. Okay, this is why they can mass produce an Android phone, because all of the hardware and the drivers and all that's been figured out inside Android itself. Does any idea what captive portal login does on? I don't know. I don't know the specifics of all that. Okay, so anyway, given the situation here, this is a 1+1. This is a 2014 Android. Okay, and what I'm going to do with this, and I'm going to install Linux on here. The specific version of Linux I'm going to install on this is called UB Ports, which is a fork of Ubuntu Touch. Okay, and this is the phone that they recommend. So I'm going to install, if I can just get this thing charged, I can install UB Ports on this. Somebody left a comment to me that UB Ports is in fact working on his phone. Okay, so if I can run Linux on this device, then I won't have the same kind of Wi-Fi triangulation, location tracking, all that. It's going to fail for most things. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for most things. It's not as clean a solution as the Librem 5, but I think it would block a good 80% of the transmission emissions of our location data and other data with sensors and all that. I think that Linux will block most of that, even if it's in firmware. It could be 90%. I don't really know. It can't be 90% because it has a baseband modem. Baseband modem is very dangerous. So the baseband modem is probably a good chunk of that. So I'm going to say that it can't get rid of everything, but it can get rid of the some of the spying on the Wi-Fi triangulation side. So because of this, I'm going to try this as a temporary solution, because this is better than using a BlackBerry Bold. Because a BlackBerry Bold is also not Android and also not iOS, and it also doesn't have Wi-Fi triangulation code. So it'll be similar to this, but yet this one has a good browser. So if this has a good browser, I can run my apps. I can run Chromium and Firefox and do normal things on the phone with a browser, kind of like KaiOS. Okay, so here we are again. You know, what time is it? At 1 hour, it failed again. 1 hour, it failed again. So I don't know. Did YouTube drop? Did YouTube drop or is YouTube still running? Wow, YouTube didn't stop. Whoa, that's incredible. That's YouTube didn't stop. Wow. Okay. Shocking that YouTube didn't even stop. It just continued. Wow. Okay. Incredible. Okay, that's good. Okay. I know it stopped, but usually when it stops, then you can't recover. But it looks like it recovered. Okay. Okay, so anyway, let me just I don't know how it worked on YouTube, but anyway, maybe I recovered it fast enough. Still up. Okay, so back to what I'm talking about here. So this is my intermediate solution. This is not perfect, but if we can do this, because people ask me this question, what kind of solution do I have for all the spying on the software? And the only solution I have is to go to a flip phone or a BlackBerry Bold 9900, and at least it will be better than what you have. And since I can't really suggest that because there's no browsing, wouldn't it be nice if we got this? This has a Linux phone. It will be functioning like a kind of a Linux phone, a little bit limited, but it has browsing. The only comment somebody left about this earlier today was that they said it didn't have Netflix. So I don't know if Netflix is going to have a problem. I don't know. Or if YouTube is going to have a problem. I can't tell you. I'm going to test it myself. But if it works and if I can go to YouTube on this and YouTube works, then I have a functional phone I can use when I'm on the road, and it's not going to track me as much. Not perfect. Again, the perfect solution will be more along the lines of a Librem 5. And even that's not perfect, but it has a better chance of really blocking emissions more than this. But if you can do this for $59 or $79, and this works, who needs a ducking new iPhone? This is actually about the same specs or similar specs to an iPhone 6S, which is not bad. Landline phones are not bad. No, YouTube is up. Yes. YouTube did not go down. Shockingly enough, it did not go down. YouTube did not fail. So I basically shifted from wired to Wi-Fi. I don't know what my problem is. It's probably a electronic circuitry conflicts in here. But I went from wired to Wi-Fi and it reconnected. Can one watch Netflix somewhere else? Well, of course you can watch. You can always have an iPhone. I didn't say don't have an iPhone. You could have an iPhone at home or an iPad and then use this for travel so that it doesn't track your location. It already knows where you live. So we can use this when we're on the road. The other thing that I'm going to do with this, I'm going to install UB ports on this, which is Linux. I'm going to install UB ports, which is Ubuntu Touch, which is similar to what Librem 5 is doing on the Librem 5. Purism is doing on the Librem 5, and then I'm going to put another little trick in here to change the MAC address, because the MAC address is being spied on by Facebook. So a combination of MAC address plus no Wi-Fi triangulation, and this may actually do a good enough job, and it'll be an intermediate solution that is cheap and can get us away from these deadly little devices in here. We will be able to keep our privacy for the most part, except from 3-letter agencies. With a 3-letter agency, only Librem 5 will work. This is not. Okay, so if we're not worried about 3-letter agencies, I guess we're not going to worry about it. Okay, so this can still be spied on by a 3-letter agency. Okay, but at least I'm not going to get spying from Android, Google, from Google and Apple and anybody else, Facebook. I can stop Google, Apple, Facebook, but I cannot stop a three-letter agency from spying on this. You need a Librem 5 for that. Qualcomm, huh? It's not from quality. Can anyone hide from Google? Yes, you can with Linux. And please don't come to me and say, but Android is Linux. I'm just sick and tired of hearing this. In America, there was 3. In other countries, there are 4. They reserved the 3 letters for U.S. use. And then in other countries, their agencies are all 4 letters. So when I say 3 letters, they're always U.S. So given this is a solution that would be great. If I have to get a new one here because this one can't charge, then I will have a delay. But if I can just get it to boot, then we might have an answer soon. And maybe I'll tell you on Brax.me if I got it, and then I'll make a video of it. So I got to get it to boot first. Okay, so this is going to work. I can put Ubuntu Touch on here. Isn't your car being tracked? Yes, by if you're going to talk about your emergency service, no, your car is being tracked by cameras and such. Yes. With facial recognition. I mean, this world is just too much. Phone in your pocket, though. Enough about me. Android is to Linux as Apple is to Unix. It's just their shell. The point is, you can't take you can't say, I'm going to take an operating system, I'm going to bastardize it, and then I can say, well, I'm still Linux, I'm still Unix. Okay, come on. At some point, you have to say, no, you can't do the same things on these operating systems. People want, and it's going to have to operate in Java. Otherwise, it doesn't let you do anything else. You can't say, well, I want to write some C code, and I'm going to insert it into, and I'm going to run it on Android, and Android's going to say, Zuck, no. It's not going to run. We're not going to let it run. Our execution environment will only accept Java. And these are the only calls you can make, and this is the application programming interface, or API. This is the only thing you can do. Okay. Whereas on Linux, I can say, well, what do I program with on Linux? Oh, I can use Python, I can use C, C++, C#, on and on and on. I can use any programming language I care to use, PHP, whatever, COBOL, Fortran, whatever you want to use, you can use on a Linux box. You cannot do it and Windows. In Windows, because Windows you can actually install everything as well, because as long as you write to the chip, it doesn't matter what the compiler is, you can run anything on Windows. So Windows you can run everything, Linux you can run everything. They're kind of similar. What is not true is that you cannot run same things on a phone. People are arguing with me, and this is the part 2 of this, is many people have left so many comments. If you look at the video on the Librem 5 and the PinePhone, many people have made comments saying that they did not like my comment, saying that Android doesn't have a file system. They took offense with that and said, oh, I've been using Android, it has a file system. Truly missing the point of the video. If I give you a fake file system, and I call it a file system, it doesn't mean it's a, it's an OS level, Linux level, Windows level file system. When you have a file system, you can actually look at the storage and go from the root folder all the way down and look at every hidden area in there, and you can actually search and find every zucking file in your Windows drive or your SD card drive or your flash drive. You can go through the entire hierarchy from root to go and look everywhere, and you can dump a file in any single direction. You can put it on there, and somebody will say, no, Android is a file system. And it's like, I understand why they say that. I understand why they say that, but it's really not my point. Okay? Because people think I'm kind of dumb with this. People think that I made that comment in kind of a dumb way because I don't really know what I'm talking about. Okay, I just want to make sure that we just correct this. You may misunderstand what I'm saying, which is okay. So we may have a disagreement based on a misunderstanding. But please don't call me a dummy that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm a sucking Android developer as well. I develop Android apps. I develop Windows apps. I develop iOS apps. I develop Linux apps. And I program in every zucking programming language that exists. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. And maybe you don't understand what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is not expressed in a lingo that is clear to the average user. But I'm going to tell you this. Don't tell me that you can go into Android and have a file system and you can change anything. That is a sucking lie. That's the biggest lie I ever heard. You cannot go to Android and change any file you want. That is not possible. Not possible. On Android, what they do is expose files. It depends on the version too. Some versions don't even share any of that, depending on how much space they have. If they have space for it, they'll share some things, and otherwise they do not. What they share are, your photo library, your document section in there, and downloads folder, and some other limited areas. They don't allow you to go. Somebody said, well, I can go to my application cache. Yes, but you cannot go to your application folder. If I wrote a program to run, which I did, I have several programs that run on Android. If I said to my users, hey, just download this file and put it into the application folder, I just changed the JPEG, changed the opening screen. So all you have to do is download this into your application folder like you do on Windows, and everything will be all set. That's impossible. You can't do that on Android. So don't tell me that you can do all this on Android, because come on. I'm the programmer here. I'm telling you cannot do that on Android. Okay? The way that Android works is you have to package your program into an APK file in a particular format, which is then sent to Google. Google will then do whatever they want to do with that, and then they're going to install it on the Android in their own way. And we don't have any sucking input on how they want to do that. And that's the only way you can submit an app to Google. And that's the only way it's going to get in your application folder. You can't manually do anything on a phone. It's locked down. This is not the same way it operates in Windows or Linux. On Linux, you can just stick a program in there any way you want, and it's done. Okay? So for these people who are, they're the ones giving me a thumbs down on video, are all the people who are complaining about my comment about the Linux file system. And it's like, my point with the Linux, the Android not having a file system, my point with this comment is not to argue with you about, the extent of the file systems on an Android. That is not the point. The point is to show you that if you have a Linux phone, the file system is exactly the same on an Android, on the mobile device and the desktop. It's exactly the same file system. Exactly same file system. No, the broadcaster does not stall. It's a local problem for you. Okay, so if you have a Linux phone, it's exactly the same. It's like running Windows. If it's like saying, can I run Windows 10 on my phone, and then I want it to be exactly the same as Windows 10 on a computer. And we don't have a Windows 10 phone. We have a Windows phone that was not Windows 10. But if we have a Windows 10 phone, then yes, it would function the same way. And we don't. So at the moment, the only operating system that works the same way on a phone as on a desktop is Linux, which is exciting. It's unique because now it promotes this new word that I'm explaining called convergence. And that's the point of me talking about file system, not to have an argument with people trying to defend Android, is to say that you can have a structured file system that's exactly the same on a desktop, exactly the same on mobile, and you can have convergence. And that makes it a lot easier. Because here's a problem. So this is a nexus. Okay, just to show you some of the comments I've been getting. It's really kind of bothersome to get these comments from people because they think I'm dumb. Okay, so for the people who say, well, you don't know fucking anything about, I just told you I'm an Android developer, and you're saying I'm dumb. I don't know this. I don't know how to work with Androids. Okay, so here's a fucking Nexus 7. Where is the fucking file system in a Nexus 7? I took a photo on the Nexus 7. Now I want to pass this file and edit it in Windows. How do I do that? It's gonna take some complex thing to do that. You can't just take the file here. One of the ways you can do it, which is one of the easy ways, is to save a file onto Google Drive, and then you can go to your computer and access Google Drive, and that's the way you get it. But in my example in the video, I didn't try USB, no, because then you have to load software for that. I'm just trying to keep it simple here, not making it more complex. Because if you have many computers, many phones, say, oh, bring a USB, and then you have to install software on the computer you can use this tool to do access the drive on the, that's not what I mean. I mean, it's got to be the same thing. It's got to be you talking to somebody on the phone and say, can you pass me the file? Tell me how to pass the file. I'm not going to go tell them, oh, well, you take a USB and then download this software from such and such on this website and then install it, on Windows and give it whatever this. And then you're going to see your drive. And then, how long is that going to take? And then it's not even going to be a consistent explanation. It's easier to go to Google Drive and just say, dump it in Google Drive and then go to Google Drive on the other device and go read it. Yes, the problem is, in my example in the video, it was a tax form, an IRS tax return. I took a photo of a tax return and I said, I want to send this to my computer. How do I send the tax form to my computer from this app? I was using an iPhone, by the way, not Android. But I was using an app called Genius PDF. And a Genius Scanner was the name of the app. And what it is you take a picture of a document. It's like a photocopy machine. So now I have a photocopy of the document that's it's like a scanner photocopier. And then it's now in the memory of the memory of the app, this Genius app. And this Genius app has no way to share the file. It has no save file. There's no place to save it anywhere on the fucking Android. Or in this case, Windows. The app doesn't have a save button because there's no regular file system and didn't program for it. And somebody said, oh, you're so dumb, you don't know anything. You can save everything in Android. No. Yes, I could upload it in Brax. How do I pass it to Brax? Mad cow. It's on the Genius scanning app. I can't pass it to Brax. If I can pass it to Brax on my Android, I'd be all set. I couldn't pass it to Brax. And I'm no zucking dummy. You have to understand that some of this, I yelled save, some of this device, like this is a Nexus 7, doesn't really have any file thing in here because there's no SD drive or anything. It's really made to run Google Drive. This does not have space for memory card or nothing. This is really made to just use Google Drive. Okay, so some people say, well, how do you print it for, hey, how do you print it from a zucking Nexus or from a zucking iPhone? Tell me how. I send that to the printer. Yeah, a lot of procedures. Oh, yeah, you can touch a printer. Like, I don't even know how to do that. Too much work. Okay? Too much work. So, wouldn't it be nice to just say, oh, it's the same file system. Let me just save it and then here, put it on an SD card, transfer it to in a place I can control, not through the internet, not through a cloud, not through Dropbox. I'm not gonna put my tax returns on Google Drive. Now, most of you probably do put your documents, including tax returns, on Google Drive. Google reads your Google Drive. That's why it's free. Google reads your Google Drive. So if they can go scan your Google Drive, Google Photos, and use that to profile you, then they can make money from you and say, okay, you can use Google Drive for free, but we'll examine everything you put on there. So I'm not going to go put my zucking tax return with my social security number, my income, and everything else on Google Drive. I am not that dumb. I'm not that dumb. So someone's going, well, but it's so easy on Android. All you have to do is store it in your Google Drive and it's all done and it's so convenient. It's like, suck. How do I put a stamp on it? Hey, yo, how do I print it from a zucking mobile device? It's not like my mobile device has a USB to put my printer on it. I don't have a USB 3 port or USB 2 port to plug in my printer. So, it's all this because mobile phones weren't designed for that kind of use. And that's why Linux phone is different. So let me just to show you a little bit of a comparison. Don't you like stomping on the electric pedal? There's a printer app. Yes, more. Yes, I know. Printer app, USB, this, that. And I was like saying, when you start thinking about some of this, the complications of saying, well, you can go pass it on another app and do this. If you're on the phone, you're trying to help grandma and say, Grandma, I need to take a picture of that document and send it to me. How do you tell grandma how to do this? Oh, you have to install this, put a USB on, put it on Windows. And I don't have Windows. Suck. Okay, so I'm just saying it's that's not how a desktop app works. Desktop, you can do anything. So the reason it's complex is because these devices have so many restrictions on them. This is a black box too, not just the little chips on here, but they actually made this into a lockdown machine. This is the claim to fame of a phone. It's a lockdown machine. Now, I know how to take care of my devices. I don't want Google to own this. I don't want Apple to own this. I want me to own it. Okay? Why can't I own my device? Why do I have to rely on Apple and Google to own the device? Because they basically own it. I'm going to tell you a zucking story that just gives you an example. So I have a Google Pixel. Phone's actually nice, except that it runs Android. Okay. So I said, I'm going to see if I can get rid of Android on this. I'm going to install, and it's an unlocked phone. No problem. Unlocked phone. I use any SIM card on it. It's no problem. And I tried today to install Lineage OS on there, and guess what? It says OEM unlocking not allowed. OEM unlocking not allowed. So zucked again. I mean, it makes me so zucking mad. I paid for this phone. This is my zucking phone. And Google says I cannot unlock it. I paid for the zucking thing. Nobody owns this phone. It has no phone locking with carrier. I bought it used. It works with any SIM card. But yet, I can't do what I want on it because Google locked it down. So I don't know what to do. Now I can't use that phone, so now I got to get another phone. It's like costing me money to make these videos just to prove it to you. Exactly, Cosmic Writer. I want to be root. I didn't even get to any of that. This motherfucker. Didn't get to any of that. All I did, I got to the, I did fast boot and all that, and I got to, I rebooted it, and it was already rebooted, and it says locked. And if you go to the OS, it says you can't, it grayed out, OEM unlocking. You can't unlock it. It's grayed out. No option. So what am I going to do on an iPhone with a Broadcom chip on there that has all the spyware on it? Get a V30? What is a V30? Is that a specific model? What is a V30? Anyway, I'm going to try this one now. The only problem is I just got this, and the problem is it's not charging. So if I can get this to charge, let me just, maybe there was not enough voltage in that, but it wasn't charging. So I'm going to charge it on this micro USB here and see if it actually works a little bit better. LG V30. Yeah, I don't know if that's compatible. You got to just check it model by model. Because every one of these builds, like a bunch UB ports that I'm going to use, put Linux on this phone on, it only works on certain models. So this is one of the models it works with a 1+1. Okay, so if I get this to work, then that'll be fantastic. If I can get that to work, it'll be fantastic. Is it best to learn how to program in conjunction? Is it best to learn how to program in conjunction with cybersecurity? I don't know if you can really do true cybersecurity without programming. If you don't know any programming, cybersecurity is kind of a cursory knowledge. Programming is what allows you to actually manipulate. So, okay, what did I miss? The comments here. And just how, okay. Did I miss anyone's comments? Okay, I know I missed comments on Periscope, but go to XDA for certain phone. The Constitution say a standing army can, from next to your solution, make war every 2 years. Okay, so anyway, what does that mean? You want over? I mean, like over. Okay. Thank you for the super hearts, Mario. Nobody gives me super hearts on Periscope but Mario. The team lost on the final play. My team lost on the final play. Is that the Badgers? Yes, I was very disappointed the Badgers lost today. I get it. They don't like what we're saying. I like what you're saying, Boar. So, anyway, so insane the level these companies' intelligence does to us. I would rather use the CB than the phone. That's why I love ham radio. That's why I love ham radio. Ham radio. Oh, the different spelling of a boar. Ham radio. You have to announce yourself, so your identity is not a secret. But boy, they can't really. They don't really spy. They don't really spy on you on a ham radio. Do you need to verify each phone that will accept Linux Touch UV ports? There's a Angel. They have a on the website. They say all the models that they support, and looking at the list, the ones that look reasonably functional are OnePlus 1, Nexus 4, Nexus 5. Those are all things you can. Those are all devices you can purchase for under $79. Did my ham go out when the electricity went out? No, I had an earthquake and my ham was working. In the middle of no, ham radio does not go down. It's you can even run on solar, and of course it runs on batteries. So in solar batteries, solar powered batteries. So no, ham radio doesn't go down. Can you quash or qualify a possible rumor? Sounds like a legal term. Is ham going to stop in California pulling plug on licenses? No. That is incorrect. That's incorrect. So that rumor is not correct. There's a specific dispute in some specific area of California about some specific thing that really doesn't affect the rest of us. Okay. Yes, a lot of people, especially like prepper types, went on the YouTube and made videos about the fact that California was shutting down ham radio and all this, and it's like it was done in panic and they didn't really research it, and the issue is really because they want to be first on YouTube to post it. And they kind of look like fools at the end because it's false. It's not really the case. And if you look in Los Angeles, no one was talking about it at all. So you can go on the airwaves and no mention of it at all on the airwaves in Southern California, because the issue was some specific area in Shasta County in Northern California, which I believe is near the Oregon border. So it's a very, very specific area. And it basically, relates to some specific equipment. So they were saying, well, you can't store this equipment here for free in our vault. And so we're going to, we don't need this anymore. So either you pull it out or you get a license to keep it here, and you have to pay some money. It's not neither here nor there, because it's about one specific person that runs a repeater. So it's not someone in general. So I don't know. It's some specific equipment that was in a vault, emergency vault, and maybe there was no room in the vault. So put it outside the vault. I'm thinking Facebook tells everything about you. Book stores information. The FB feed. What? Anyway. So back to. So I'm talking about Android. And I'm talking about the file system and why a Linux phone is a completely different concept. So. For those of you who don't understand the Linux part of this, then we'll strike Linux out of the question here and just say, what if you could run Windows on a phone exactly like you do on a desktop? Meaning, DOS prompt, all that, everything the same. What if you could do that? What if everything is the same? All the start button, everything is the same on the phone as it is on the computer. Well, it may be not as usable because the screen is much smaller, and that's the main reason for the redesign of mobile, is because our fingers can't really deal with tiny things that you'll have on a big display. But aside from that, sizing of buttons and all that, if the file system and everything were the same, then it would be a different story today. But unfortunately today, the most popular operating systems are all locked down as Android and iOS. And part of the reason that they control those devices, is they curate the content. They become the police and say, you can't have this kind of content on your phone because Apple Store doesn't allow it because it's going to be censored. Or we don't like it because it has nudity. We don't like it because it has because you're talking about guns. Whatever. I mean, whatever the topic is, there's some limitations always being put on you by the curators, in this case, Apple and Google. The reality is, this is really funny because you don't have the limitation on Windows. When you're running a Windows computer, you can do anything. You can even do illegal things on your Windows computer. They're not going to let you put it on the phone. It's a very strange thing. They let you do any kind of illegal thing on Windows computer because they don't have any control over it, but they manage to control us through the phone. It's an amazing thing. That's why I want to dump these. Okay? Now, if this is running, in this specific case, if this is running Linux, okay, if this is running Linux, and it's the same as on a desktop, then whatever programs I can run on the desktop will run on here. And the only issue is, of course, the screen size, and it's got to be touch. So, in theory, if you modify any app and just make it touch, then it'll work. Okay, so that's what is kind of exciting about a Linux phone. On a Linux phone, there's no mysteries in how to use a Linux phone. I'm not going to say, I don't know how to use a Linux phone. Since I know how to use Linux, just like you learn how to use Windows, then you say, I don't need to learn how to use a Linux phone. I can run any app on this. So, for example, if you want to run a word processor using OpenOffice, you can go run OpenOffice on a Linux phone. Nobody's going to stop you. It will work. Okay? So this is kind of a different thing that I'm talking about. If you can have the same operating system run on a phone that you run on the desktop, it will be a very different world. Very, very different world. And that's what I'm here to promote. I think it'll be a lot of the censorship, a lot of the stuff that happens on the internet will actually disappear if the mobile phone runs exactly the same operating system as the desktop. There won't be any censorship. You can, do, for example, you can trade crypto without looking for an app. It'll just run on your phone. If you want to buy and sell Bitcoin, you don't have to go to, you can do it directly from your wallet, the same one. There's only one wallet. You don't have to say, do I need to have a wallet for my mobile device? And because it's going to be same operating system. I'm going to tell you, a lot of this evil that you sense will disappear if we can have control over the device and say, you own this. You own this. This is not owned by Google and Apple. You paid for this. I paid $1,300 for this. This is more expensive than my laptop. This is more expensive than my laptop. Is it really deserving to be more expensive than my laptop? My laptop can do a lot more. Okay? So yeah, this $1,300. Okay, and I have more memory, more space, more everything on my laptop. ET Buck is licensed to me. Well, I don't like that it's licensed to me. I like to own it. I thought all these phones' OS limitations were due to ARM chips, then I found out Raspberry Pi runs the desktop on an ARM chip. Raspberry Pi yes, a Raspberry Pi is an ARM chip. Do you own Windows anymore if you can't refuse their updates? Do you own? I run Windows. I run Linux. I run Mac OS. I run Android. I'm a developer. I have run all of them. But I'm clearly, deciding what to do here. My problem is because of YouTube. I use something called Adobe Premiere Pro, and that's what makes the videos. And that is the only thing I cannot use on any other platform because there's no equivalent to it. It only runs on Windows. Adobe Premiere Pro. So I may be stuck where I use the computer only with Adobe Premiere Pro, but I want to actually buy a specifically compatible computer for Linux and not use this HP here. What I use an HP Spectre. And I don't want to even use this. In fact, I would convert this to Linux, but there's no drivers for it. It's not compatible. So I can't run Linux here directly. I have to run it on a virtual machine. The Qualcomm chips emulating x86 can still spy. Are you talking about IME? No, they spy around it. Let's say you have a Ben. So let's say you have a typical computer that has Intel Management Engine where they can spy on it. Well, your virtual machine is running on a file, like let's say it's VirtualBox. Well, they can obviously just copy the entire file and run your VirtualBox elsewhere and have a copy of it. So running a virtual machine doesn't do anything. So if you can manipulate the host system, then you can get all the data from the host system. So if you have a IME on the host system, you're zucked. I do not have IME on this computer. For the last 3 years, I specifically looked for computers. See you later, Angel. For the last 3 years, I've been buying computers specifically looking at the fact that they don't have IME. So all of my computers do not have IME, except for an older one that I have that does have IME, and it is my Mac. I have a MacBook Pro and a MacBook Air. I have several MacBook Airs, but I think only one is not broken. The rest are broken. So of the running MacBook Airs, I think that has IME. I think and then my MacBook Pro has IME. Hello, Tom Mike. So IME, the back door is there. So, but my new laptops don't have IME. What is the AMD equivalent to IME? I forget what they call it. There is one. Okay, there is an AMD equivalent to IME, but I don't forget what they call it. So don't be like too certain. You're saying, oh, and we accept it. Your social score all good, Spirit? My social score is apparently very bad. Stupid social score. That means nothing. It's like, what the zuck are you to give me a score? Mine is safe. Don't use it. Still better than newer Macs. Hello, Jedi mind trick on you. Kind of small. It's like I need glasses to read all that. What I'm trying to explain to you is that the trend of putting a Linux operating system on a phone, forget about all the spying black box and all that I was talking about. Just the idea of Linux on the phone is quite an amazing concept because the operating system on the phone is the exact same one as on a desktop. So if we can put in Linux on here, that is a big deal. And although this still will have some spying stuff on it, as a learning device and as a device that we can use to test the concept, it will be very, very interesting because of this thing called convergence, where your mobile and desktop devices are the same. What is the social score? China has the social score, and then somebody said, "Oh, we don't have social scores in the U.S." They have social scores in China, but we don't have social scores in the U.S. Wrong. Go to mylife.com as an example of a social score in the U.S. mylife.com. Find yourself, find out what your score is. Okay? Find out what your score is. So anyway, that's yes, my life. My social score on my life is is like low. It's like fuck. And in reality, my credit score is very good, and my reputation in the world is very good, top notch, and my reputation even in social media is very good. But mylife.com gives me a bad score, and when you go to mylife.com, the first thing it says is lawsuits. Yours says rebel. Mine says, warning, this person has legal actions, whatever. And so they dropped my score because of legal activity. And it's like, you zucking idiots. I am the, I was the one who filed the lawsuit. So I'm not the one being sued. I'm the one that's sued. So they dropped my social score because I sued. So I was like, "Suck you, suck you." That's how dumb this little programs are. So it's like contact Mr. Yang for a better score. So that's what I'd say. So what do you want to... The fact that the score is low is actually good. It's called disinformation. Disinformation. We got to talk about disinformation. Why do you think that you use a VPN? Guys, why do you use a VPN? We forget what the purpose of a VPN is. And somebody just made it clear. Oh, come on, Tom Mike. Because that is that. Put your real name on it. Okay? So, oh my gosh. Almost dropped the thing. Okay, now I got it disconnected. So this is a VPN router, right? And the purpose to these is to put all your traffic on a different IP address. So the purpose of a VPN is to redirect your traffic so it goes on a different IP address. And by doing that, then nobody knows exactly where you are because you're giving them disinformation. So this is very important. That's why you do not put a VPN in your house, because it doesn't give disinformation. The disinformation comes from sending your traffic to a different server and sharing with a lot of other people, so then they don't know which one of you are using it and from where you're coming from. They can't tell that. Okay, this information is key. So this my life and all this, you know, we got to feed it this information. If we can you imagine if you can feed this information to Intel, Spoke you, and all this, just put your name out on the internet with fake information and then have it go there and say, "Oh, you won the lotto. You know, you bought a house. You bought a house in Malibu. You know, next to some star, and you know something like that, and put it on social media, and it doesn't matter that anyone reads it. In fact, no one will really read it because they won't believe it. But guess what? It will be picked up by Spokue, Intellius, Axiom, and all these guys, and they will pick it up and put it on your zucking record because they're so zucking dumb. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff that, you know, it's important to think about and plan on, and you know, I got to think about that, but you know, it's I'd like to test that concept. It just takes a little bit of planning to go figure that out, because you want to say suddenly you want to flood the internet with all good stuff about you. I have a Firefox plugin that goes to volunteering sites all night while I sleep. And none of them have my real name. Oh, they all have my real name. I mean, I'm busy guy. I mean, I'm everywhere. So I go to Axiom Intellius. I had to opt out. So I'm opted out of, you know, but you have to keep opting out. You got to go in there on a regular basis, and if you don't, you miss a few months and then you show up again. Do you get a higher score if you're part of the Illuminati? Well, you need to do the proper disinformation for that. You need an optimizer. So anyway, that's what VPN is. It's disinformation. So this is the reason why we use Tor and all that, is disinformation. It's not just to hide information, it's to give disinformation. If you're adopted, you don't get to have your real name. Makes sense? Bore. Makes sense. Yes, but then whatever name you've been using in the meantime, that has a record. So, but when you change identity, you can say, well, this is my real name. I'm gonna legally change my age. Well, might be discrimination if they don't allow that. Vor, yes, that's funny. That's funny. Someone hurry up and adopt me so I can escape the stalker at least. Is it safer to forward all social media posts to a PR firm before posting them? I don't know. Depends on what the PR firm does. Highly recommended. So anyway, I hope that I'm trying to answer some of the questions that were raised in all the videos, and I hope you learn about what I'm talking about tonight. Is it's important information that helps us understand what the choices are. So again, to kind of summarize this, there's a difference between saying that you install Linux on a Librem 5 versus doing Linux on a PinePhone. I didn't explain this in the video, the comparison. And to be honest, I forgot because I wasn't focusing on the security specific differences. But a Librem 5 really is not the same as a PinePhone, because the Librem 5 is the only one where the memory area of the modem is not shared with the memory area of the rest of the phone. Same with the Wi-Fi. So it has a more secure separation between the spyware and the main apps. I mean the main operating system. So there's less things that they can get from a Librem 5 compared to a PinePhone. So now you're saying, well, the PinePhone is cheaper, so the PinePhone it's not a bad choice. Well, yes, understand that there are differences. If you're going to go with a PinePhone, then you also need to consider this option, which is Linux using Ubuntu Touch or UB ports. Take an old phone and use it here, because what's the difference? This is even more powerful than a Pine phone, because you're not really getting much of an advantage on a Pine phone if you don't understand all the firmware and how that's interacting with your stuff. Now, on a Pine phone, you do have a switch, but the switch is in the zucking back. It's not something you can easily use. So, and that really makes you wonder if you need a Pine phone or you need one of these. Okay? I understand completely. There's a lot there. Very interesting. Like 1/6 truth. I did killed me almost, but I see. Oh, that's a different thing. So I'm saying yes, this should be considered. Putting UB ports on this. This should be considered. It's a not a complete solution, but it should be considered because it's better than the iPhone. It's better than the Android. So at least we're improving. Okay, if we can use a device that's kind of middle of the road, not as bad as an iPhone and an Android, we at least get some level of safety. And as long as we understand that, then it's fine. It's not completely secure, but it's more secure than not using one. BlackBerry is now made in China. Is now a Chinese company. The BlackBerry phone was sold to a Chinese company. Mr. Misik. So yeah, the name BlackBerry for use with a phone. The BlackBerry SIM. I mean, what do you call it? The original company. What's the name of the RIM? The original RIM company still exists, and they still use the name BlackBerry for some enterprise product, but the BlackBerry phone is now used by a Chinese company that just make Androids. So they're an Android company. Okay, so if you do not consider BlackBerry phones, they're Androids. So do not put them on the list of options. Navy sold what? TCL. Is that the name of the company? TCL. That sounds like it. Yeah. I know it was 3 letters. Like a 3-letter agency. Yeah. So yeah, that TCL. Yes. You must have Googled that while we're talking here. BlackBerry made several comebacks that didn't take. Well, most of them are actually made by Chinese companies. BlackBerry Jam. I saw it on YouTube. I'm not that damn old. Phones are small screen and limited on multiprocessing. Well, that's a problem with the operating system. Okay, Eagle Swords. The operating system can make it. If they think there's enough CPU, they can multitasking is especially on multi-core computers should be a simple task. It never goes away. If she has a heart of gold, I met thousands of dollars. Okay, that's a different topic. When do you think it will be solved? What will be solved? Movie life. So in any case, this is what we're going to think about. So we're going to think about this today. We're all using our spy phones. Let's make we want to get to the Librem 5s, the type phones, which, maybe a year from now will be more a selection of that. Currently, there's only Librem 5. We can't even get one, and it's very thick, zucking phone. So we want to shoot for getting more of a Librem 5 kind of phone in the future. In the meantime, since we can't get a Librem 5, then maybe we'll go intermediate. Okay? We'll go to the middle ground for the next year, and then maybe next year we get 11.5. So, because it may take that long for me to get one. Okay, so that's my idea. At least I'm guiding you to a solution. I'm thinking facility manager. If this works, then we install it on this, and if I get to figure out how to do it, then maybe I'll do it for you. I'll install it for you. I'll just charge you money to install it, and then you just buy it already running. Okay, so if you don't want to do it, for those of you can do it, then you can do it. Otherwise, if it works, then maybe we'll have a machine here that does it for you all day, and then or maybe you buy the phone, you ship it to us, and we install it and we bring it back to you. Then you don't have to worry about it. So that's a possible solution. For some of you who are teching enough, I don't need to do it for you. You can do it yourself. What was that about the Librem 5? I missed that comment. Librem 5 looks like the Zune. Could be, but hopefully a little bit better. So is it hopeful news? Is there another way to use PureOS to test it? PureOS may run on this at some point. There are no drivers for this right now. So at some point it can, yes. Okay, so there's a lot of developments happening now, and some devices will work, some devices won't, because no one has the time to work on every single driver. So because you have to make drivers, and it takes so much time to do them that some phones will just be popular. So at the moment, somebody programmed a OnePlus 1, somebody programmed a Nexus 5, Nexus 4. So would be nice if they programmed a Pixel, because a Pixel is a very nice phone. I like a Pixel, and if they can put Linux on a Pixel, that would be cool. If somebody spent the time to do that, so that's better than the Nexus. The Nexus is getting really old, but the Pixel is the next version after the Nexus phones. So the Pixels are very nice looking phones, and they work really well. Even the old Pixel is actually very snappy. So if we're just patient, it will happen. What phone do you have? Zucking iPhone? Like this Zucking thing, I paid $1,300 for. If I drop this and break the glass in the back, I'm not gonna go replace it. If I drop the glass and break this $1,300 phone is gonna go away, because I might as well just get a new phone. $550 to replace the back glass. I mean, come on, it's too much. What year do you have your last flip phone? Well, I have a BlackBerry Bold. Where's my BlackBerry Bold? I wanted to leave it here for a demo. I have a BlackBerry Bold, which is small screen phone. It's not considered water resistant if you do that. No, facility manager, if you break the back, you have to send it to Apple, and Apple will replace the back. And therefore, that $550, I hope it's waterproof, because you pay $550. You can't replace it for $100. There is no way. No, can't replace for $100. No one can repair the back for $100. Maybe on the XR, but not on the iPhone 10 or the 11. The XR, because it's plastic. No facility manager, not if you pay $550, it's waterproof. So if you pay him 550 is going to be waterproof. But on the other hand, you say, why do I want to do that? The case is in the insurance. I don't fucking have insurance, human. Why would I pay sucking insurance? No, John, the better solution is dump the sucking iPhone. What I'm going to do is put this in a case. See, I broke the rim case here. I broke it. So what I'm going to have to do is wrap this up. This nice looking phone will be wrapped up in a big case so it'll never break. Yeah, you see, you buy insurance. I can buy a used phone for the insurance, for goodness sakes. The case is the insurance, yes. Exactly. And you can buy a cheap case, so it could be cheap insurance. Those Zach Zuckers lied to me. Yeah. So anyway, I when I found that out about the 550, and you cannot replace the screen. The screen you could use back in the day on an iPhone 6s. You can replace the screen for $40 and do it yourself, right? And now you replace the screen, you have to go to Apple and pay them $220 to $250 to replace the screen. So if you drop this and you crack the screen in the front and crack the screen in the back, $250 plus $550, $800. You can buy a new one. You can buy a new one for $650. I'm not gonna go fix it. Buy a new one. What a fucking waste. So this is what we do to the phone. So this solution is much better. Get this for $59. Well, maybe not the solution because the battery's not running. Get it for $59, and then if it breaks, buy a new one. Is the Liberum just stuck in transit, or are they funding it out of funding? No, they build it bit by bit. Don't get a Tesla. I don't have any money to buy a Tesla. Crazy. I ain't buying no more till they fix the Rule 41 and the rest of it too. Just throw them the toilet and walk away. The screen is to the serial number now. What? So I'm glad to smash your spy brick phone with a sledgehammer. Would take the seats out? Oh gosh. Okay. So anyway, so my point of using UB ports is to come up with an intermediate solution. I still think that the ultimate solution is to have a phone like a Librem 5. At the moment, only Librem 5 is around, and then later on, we may have some other options. But at the moment, I just want to understand, where we are, and the fact that since we can't have it, then I'd like to have a solution now, and the only solution is to put Linux on some phone. Okay, and I will still test to see if I can load Lineage OS and then test the Wi-Fi triangulation part and see if that's minimized. Okay? Human being. I actually saw a video of a car that it's in LA that came from Arizona, I think. And my question was, how do they get the Tesla from Arizona to Los Angeles? How you drive it? Librem 5 is built in China and delivered to somewhere. Wherever Librem is in California. They're in California somewhere. I don't know if most of the people are, but they have some office in here in California. So I don't know where the main office is, but this is apparently where they're shipping the Librem 5. Because when I ordered the Librem 5, I got charged California tax. I live right near the dealership. Drove it back in. No, they actually said they drove it. They drove it, and it's like, that takes some planning. That takes some planning to drive, even from Arizona to California on a Tesla. You have to plan that out. Where are you going to stop? With a charging station. Maybe they have a portable generator. I don't know. Call Librem, become a phone beta tester. The end. So you can drive a Tesla from Phoenix to LA. Yes, how? How, Boar? So what do? They have like pre-planned stops. Some hotels have charging stations. So every couple hundred miles they have to find a charging station. Yeah, but they have to plan it out. Yeah, but that's not that easy. You got to plan it out from you have to have a definite stop. I mean, you have to plan it out. You go from Arizona to California. You have to have these pre-planned stops, and there's this big areas there where there's no stops. Yeah, some big areas with no stops. So I don't know. One stop you can do in one stop, and then stop at the hotel overnight. Charge it overnight. Wow, so much trouble, huh? Just put some gas in, and you can get to here to there in one trip. Built in China? Yes, all phones are built in China. You have a Tesla, Human King, and you charge for 15 minutes. So, yeah, all phones. Just want to make this clear. All phones are made in China. All. At least all the major ones. And I'm talking Android, iOS, Librem 5s, Pine phones, Raspberry Pis, Pine 64 chips. Everything is made in China. So Trump put some tariffs on China, and now everything that I get, including Raspberry Pis, have increased 25%, including a Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pis on this are now 25% more expensive. I used to buy these Raspberry Pis, the actual board, for $37, and now the board only. And usually you buy with power supply, board, for about $54, something like that. And now that's like $70 now. $70. So 25% increase in all these little electronic parts. It's really frustrating as heck. So anyway, again, to remind you about my products that are now for sale. This is the Brax Secure Net, which is the alarm, area alarm. Okay, this is an area alarm, so this will, I've been demoing it every night. I have a Pi 4, but the Pi 4s are expensive. It's even more expensive. You're over $100. So for my purposes, they don't have any advantage for me. So I don't need them. I just want the cheapest ones. This is a Brax Wi-Fi router, which has VPN Tor routing option. This is optional. This is not, doesn't come with it. This is to extend range. So if you if you have a big house and you want more range, then you use this. and then it will be just as powerful as any Wi-Fi, the more expensive ones. This adds $35 to the cost. So for $35, you basically get a super powered, range. So that's pretty cool. This is the camera, security camera. So many gadgets here. This is the security camera. This is the Brax SecureNet camera. And the only wire that goes into here, comes into here, is an Ethernet cord that includes power. This is a power over Ethernet splitter. And so this is the only wire that it needs. It's just one. And power can go through that. This wire can be 300 feet long. So a single wire, flat, 300 feet long if you want. This one has, you can look at the design there. It's weatherproof. You can see all the sensors in there. It's well designed. You can see that, this is not, this is a well designed little unit. And if you open it up, if you open it up, you'll break things. So, but it's well designed. It's not cheap. But when you compare it to, this is a full, HD camera with the day night. This is not like your Blink. Some of these devices are not really the same level. Okay, so some of you say, well, I'll just use Blink. Blink does not have day night, so you have to have full lighting on to catch somebody, bad guy. Otherwise, the Blink doesn't work. And then it doesn't actually store the stuff on your computer. It sends the stuff in the cloud. This one has actual storage built in. Everything is stored in here. A Blink, for example, is so cheap, it doesn't actually have motion detection. What it does is just looks at the photo and looks at the differences in the photo to see if there's enough differences to call it motion. The problem with that is in the dark, it doesn't catch motion because it uses pictures. It doesn't actually have a motion sensor. This one is a motion sensor. So this actually has motion. So then it has a built-in flash drive. So it has built-in eMMC. And so this is a very, it's a powerful unit because it has everything on it. So this actually stores, if you have several of these are their own computer servers, and they're actual servers. Passive infrared motion sensor, yes. You can buy the antenna on Amazon, yes. But you need the new version of the software for that. Yeah, the antenna is on Amazon for, in the US, it's $35, $34.99. That. So if you just want range. Okay? So anyway, these are products that I have for sale. And obviously that supports the channel. And it's not like I'm getting rich from this. So, every little thing is important to keep the channel going because I do this full time. I don't do anything else. So this is all I do is make videos and talk about tech and do all these demos and teach you and all this. And in order to make a living, I make this little side products and VPNs and Wi-Fi routers and alarms and so on. And from that, hopefully make a living. So if you are interested in these products, you can find them on rob.brax.me. So my app is brax.me. The store is on rob.brax.me, and you go in there and you'll see the store. So, and then you can buy these from there, okay? I don't have any people, human being. So anyway, I'm these are very good products. Many of you already have this. I've been selling a lot of these, for example, because this is the easiest way to protect your family. Put the VPN on the router. If you have to buy this from flashrouters.com, you'd pay between $4.99 and between I think the cheapest one is like $3.99 all the way to, I think, no, maybe the cheapest one is $300 to $600 for these. And I sell these for $159. I had to increase it because the Raspberry Pi cost, but these are $159. So, but you buy them from flashrouters.com. They will sell you the same kind of thing, and it's going to cost you that much. Okay, so, and yet these are the safest and easiest because there's no programming on any device. You don't have to program any device to go to the VPN. You just use it. Okay, so that simplifies it. So you get this router and then you get a VPN subscription. You always have two parts. The router and then the VPN subscription, or the router and free Tor. Tor is free. So if you want to use this as a Tor router, that's free. It's just slower. Okay? It's up to you. You say, I want to use it as a Tor router. I don't want to pay extra money. Yeah, it's free. So anyway, yes, pick up the products today. Thank you. So these are the way that we support the program. Yes. Can you use any VPN? In theory, you could, but I'm not going to teach you how to do that because I don't want to do tech support for it. In theory, yes. I think I'll just put a simple instruction on there if you want to do that, but I'm not really going to go support it because it's just extra work that I don't get paid for. So might as well just use my VPN. I actually helped somebody do it, and I couldn't really help him too much, but he figured it out eventually. You might as well get that instead of just purchase a random VPN. Whoa, way too many variables. That was weird. What? Support this. So thank you, Entermeyer. So eventually drone delivery from Brax HQ. You know what I actually thought about? It's just side comment, completely unrelated here. I said, you know the problem with drones is that they use electricity. What do you mean? How many channels? It's a regular Wi-Fi. All of your 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz channels. What kind of question is that? Not whatever you normally get as channels. You're gonna get as channels. Anyway, drones. I was actually thinking about this, and I was saying to myself, isn't the limitation of the drones currently for delivery the battery? So they can use some other fuel. It doesn't have to be battery. Gasoline-powered drone. I guess it could be gasoline or alcohol-powered or something. And, then you maybe have more capacity because you have to carry heavier things. So, and I was looking at them, they have like gasoline-powered RC helicopters. And, somebody as big as Amazon can develop brand new engines just for the use for these kinds of things. So Amazon can build, an actual airplane thing, with a drone kind of architecture. So, they could actually build something completely different, and quiet, not using, what do you call those, weed cutter things? Because they're just using engines from yard equipment instead of building an actual engine for use specifically for this. So that doesn't seem like too high tech of a project. Doesn't seem too high tech. I think they can figure it out. Drones need drop-off points to deliver automated vehicles. Yeah, but I can see the advantage of a drone for the last mile. Last mile. So if you can, if let's say that you drop off everything into the last mile, and then the last mile drones go drop it off in your backyard. So yeah, I've seen some pretty interesting stuff before above me lately. Yes, they're not drones, Bor. They're not drones. uh, Drone swarms. Anyway, so wish me luck with my project here. I'm gonna do this tomorrow to install Ubuntu UB ports on this. If the battery works, if not, then I have to buy a battery. Zuck, more expense. Okay. So, Strontium 90 powered drone. Look at Texas program for drones. Interesting. Anyway, I don't know anything about drones. I'm just a thought that came to my head. If you wear a big enough tinfoil hat, you can block the spying drones. Anyway, so it's going to be exciting next week. What videos I can come up with? Exciting next week to see what can happen. So we will see what progress we make, and I am so appreciative. My channel grew so much in this last week. So I think let me just verify how many I got here, but my goodness, I got from last Friday, from a week ago Friday, I got 440 plus subscribers in a week. Wow. Awesome. You found me due to Delirium 5. Well, good, because it's the same kind of people, I talk about the same thing. Just happens to be a phone, but same topic. So thank you guys. I guess a lot of you subscribed because you saw me in relation to the Delirium 5. So thank you. I've been doing some marketing side. You've been doing some marketing. Timing is everything. Yes. So my iPad feels overheated. Okay, so thanks, my friends, and this is the last live stream for tech, but I do have a live stream on Monday. Monday is band rehearsal. We're gonna have music on Monday, Periscope only. Monday, Periscope only. Okay, Monday, 8 p.m. Periscope only. Right here, we're going to do a band rehearsal because we have a gig a couple days on Thursday, so 3 days later. So we're gonna do a band rehearsal right here. I played music all day today. I'll be here. Okay, so subscribe if you want to see it. I played music all day today, so I didn't broadcast it. Goes like too tiring. So I played from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Zuck. Yes, love your music and knowledge. Thank you, Kerry Bond. Thank you. Okay, so watch out for the videos next week, and then watch me live here on Next to This Piano on Monday, and then obviously the videos in the middle of the week. Okay, thank you, my friends, and fortunately we didn't get any more interruptions. Zucking Zuck will zuck you up. That's all I can say. That is not practice, Angel. That's a gig. When it's a gig, it's not practice. I need 5 more hours of practice over that. Okay, thank you guys, and see you on Periscope on Monday. Good night.